Hello, third grade. So we are officially done with our solar system unit, and we are going to head back down to Earth and start a new unit. It's actually our last science unit of third grade. Isn't that so crazy? We've learned so much this year. We've learned about force and energy. We've learned about the solar system. We've learned about weathering and erosion. We are on our last unit. So because this unit is so different than our last unit with it, which is the solar system, I wanted to just get our brains going. I want you to think about what this unit might be about. So here we have a picture. It's kind of blurry, but I just want you to look at and think about what you see. You can shout it out. Unless you're here at school, then maybe whisper it out. What do you see? I see lots of sky, right? A bird maybe? Lots of animals. A snake? Some rocks? Maybe some grass over here? Okay. I have another one. What do you see now? How does it look different than our last one? Are these similar? Are they different? What do you see in this picture? I have two more. Here's another one. What do you see in this picture? And last one. Ooh, so pretty. What do you see in this picture? All right, so what could we be learning about for our last unit? For our last science unit of third grade, we're going to be learning all about ecosystems. I'll write that down so you can see that word, ecosystems. We're going to learn about different places and their plants, their animals. We're going to learn about how those things interact with each other, how they kind of live together, how they survive where they live. We're going to learn lots of cool things this semester all about ecosystems. Say ecosystem. All right. So I have a few different ecosystems. This one is a desert. This is a forest, a rainforest, and the Arctic, like an Arctic ecosystem. So they're all very different, aren't they? They all have different animals. They all have different climates. They all have different temperatures. So before we start learning, we need to learn some vocab words, of course. So we're going to take some notes, but these are going to be really fun notes because we get to draw a lot of teeny tiny pictures. All right. So get out your science journal. I got a new science journal and it's kind of small, so yours might be a little bit bigger than mine, and that's okay. So here's my science journal. On top of our science journal page, we have to write the date. Today is 3/8/21. All right. All of this information might sound confusing at first, but we're going to spend a lot of time with it this week. So just do your best. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw 4 big circles. So actually, let's title our page first. We're going to write characteristics of ecosystems. I know that's really long, so pause the video if you need to. Now, this word characteristics, we've talked about that word before. We've described characters with that word before. We've also kind of talked about shapes with that word. Characteristics. That's just a fancy word used to describe something. So some characteristics about me, Miss Schroyer. I'm really loud. Sometimes I'm kind of silly. So characteristics is just describing something. And ecosystems are different places for now, but we're going to learn a different definition of that. Okay, so now we're going to draw our circles. Pay very close attention. Do not draw until I'm all the way done. So we're going to draw a big circle first that takes up our whole page. Ooh, my circle's kind of wonky. That's okay. And we're going to draw 3 circles inside of that. Make sure you have enough room inside your circles to draw pictures and write words. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to probably trace mine in black marker so it looks a little bit better. So you're going to draw 4 black circles like this. Go ahead and do that. Again, make sure you have enough space to write words and draw pictures in between the circles. You should look as close to mine as possible. Okay. This one kind of got too close, but that's okay. Okay, so each of these circles, there's a reason that they're inside of each other. Because the things get more specific as we go. So we're going to start really big and we're going to get smaller and smaller. So our first word is ecosystem. So on the outside circle, you're going to write ecosystem just like me. This whole big picture is an ecosystem. An ecosystem, write this definition, is all living and non-living and I'm going to kind of turn my page here as I follow the circle, things in a place. Don't write too big because we have to draw pictures too. So an ecosystem is all living and non-living things in a place. Pause the video if you need to. So, for example, in this Arctic, we have living things. We have birds, it looks like. We have penguins, and we have a polar bear. Those are all living things. They breathe, they move, they reproduce. We also have non-living things. We have this ice, and we have water. Let's do another example. Okay. So this is our forest. So we have living things. What kind of living things can you find here? We have a toucan, fish, a deer maybe. Some trees, those are living, right? The grass is living. These bushes are living. So living things and non-living things. The river, these rocks aren't living. Even clouds count. Even maybe this like beehive, that's not living, but it's part of the ecosystem. So we're going to write examples of all of these things that are part of the ecosystem. So copy what I write, please. I'm going to draw a picture of a sun, and I'm going to write sunlight. We're probably going to fill up this whole circle, so try to write small. So sunlight is a non-living thing in a place, in an ecosystem. Birds. Have you ever seen birds drawn like that? They were kind of drawn like that in our Arctic ecosystem. Okay, so we have sunlight, birds. An important one is like rocks and soil. So I'm going to draw 2 rocks, some soil at the bottom. I'm going to write rocks and soil. It's so important for us to label our words. Again, pause this whenever you need to. Or if you want to wait for me to be all the way done and then copy it, that is fine too. So sunlight, birds, rocks and soil. Another really important one is like rivers and lakes. This is my water. River and lake. And then other living things like trees. Animals. I'm just going to write animals. I'm not going to draw a picture because I'm running out of room. Plants. I'm going to write plants. So all of this is part of an ecosystem. An ecosystem is all living and non-living things in like an area, a place, a habitat, a biome, you can call them. Okay, so pause the video. Make sure you have all these ecosystem things written down. Ecosystem is living and non-living. All right, next is the word community. So first we have ecosystem, then it gets smaller and becomes a community. A community is all the living things. All living things in an ecosystem. Again, I have to turn my circle a little bit. Don't write too big. Your pages are bigger than mine, so hopefully it's easier for you. So now we're going to think about our ecosystem. And we're just going to think about the living things. The animals are living things. The plants and the trees are living things. There's not many non-living things in this picture. I'm going to try a different one. So the living things are penguins, polar bears, birds. But now we don't count the non-living things like the water or the ice or even the sunlight, because those are not living. That means they're not part of the community. The community is all living things in an ecosystem. Let's draw some examples. Again, these are just the living things. So we can write trees in this one too. Is sunlight living? Nope, can't write that. Plants? Plants are living. I can actually draw this one. I'm going to draw a flower. Rocks and soil, are those living? We can write birds. We can write animals. You can even write specific animals like, I don't know, a monkey. Monkeys. Okay, so ecosystem is all living and non-living. Community is all the living things in an ecosystem. Now it's going to get even smaller. Make sure you have community all the way copied. Pause the video if you do not. All right. Next is population. Okay, so an ecosystem is all the living and non-living things. Community is all the living things. For population, you're going to pick just one of these things. Trees, animals, monkeys, birds, plants. And the number of those things is the population. So we're going to write the number of one kind of living thing. So you might have heard this word, like the population of Irving, Texas is, I don't know, I'm going to make up a number, 50,000 people. The population of America is 7 billion people. I don't know. I'm making up numbers. These are not right. So the population is one living thing. You can have a population of monkeys. It's more than one. You can have a population of birds, of trees, but it would be of a specific type of tree, like an oak tree or an apple tree. So here I'm going to draw flowers. I'm going to draw a lot of flowers because that is what population means. A lot of one thing. The number of one thing. So my population here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 flowers. All right, we have one more circle to fill, and it's going to be a teeny tiny circle, so be very careful. If I were to pick just one of these flowers, it is called an organism. Say organism. An organism is just one. I am an organism. You are an organism. It's just one. Your family is not an organism. They are a population. We, just one person is an organism. So do you see how it gets smaller and smaller and smaller? An ecosystem is all the living things and non-living things. So this whole picture, everything you see in this picture is part of the ecosystem. Then it gets smaller and it goes to community. All the living things in this ecosystem is part of the community. So the penguins, the birds, and the polar bears. Then it gets even smaller and we pick a population, the number of one kind of living thing. So look at the penguins. There are three penguins. There is a population of 3 penguins. Because we just count the penguins, we don't count the polar bear or the birds. And an organism, one penguin is one organism. So let's label this. This whole thing is an ecosystem. All the living and non-living things. What about the community? What's part of the community? The birds are part of the community. I'll circle the birds. The penguins. And the polar bear, because those are all the living things. I'm going to write community. If I just focused on the penguins, then they could be a population. Because it's all the same type of animal or plant. And then finally, if I pick this Mr. Penguin right here, He is an organism. Do you see how it got smaller? We started with an ecosystem, then community, then population, then organism, just like in our circle. We're going to be practicing with these words quite a few times. So let's read our definitions together. Ecosystem, all living and non-living things in a place. Community, all living things in an ecosystem. Population is the number of one kind of living thing, so like flowers. And an organism is just one. We can write that if you have room. Just one. I know it's a lot. I know it's kind of confusing. That is okay. We will do our best. Try to think about these things. We're going to do a practice activity. All right. Make sure you have this all the way copied down before you move on, please. Great work, third grade. Okay, third grade. I wanted to explain this in a way that might help you understand a little bit better. So I want you to think about you. So think about your ecosystem. Think about all the things where you live. All the living and non-living. So you have you, your family, maybe any pets or animals. Pets, animals that you might see outside. Maybe birds that you see outside. Your house is a part of your ecosystem, right? That's a non-living thing that you interact with. I'm sorry, I didn't realize you couldn't see that. Your house, sunlight, that affects you, doesn't it? Clouds. You guys do not need to write this down. I'm just explaining a little bit more. All the living and non-living things. Probably soil, right? Like the wood chips you see at school, soil that you might plant a garden in, trees. The school is part of your ecosystem. Cars are part of your ecosystem. So many living and non-living things that you interact with in your ecosystem. Okay, now let's move on to community. Remember, the community is all the living things in your ecosystem. So which of these things that we wrote on the outside are part of your community? Well, you, your family, birds. Is sunlight living? Is soil living? Cars? The school? Are trees living? Yes. Clouds? Your house? Pets? Pets are living. Animals are living. So we can move all of these things on the inside too, in the community. You, your family, maybe even your neighbors. I can also move birds. These are living things. Trees, pets, and animals, maybe like squirrels, maybe mice. See all the living things. You, your family, birds, animals, pets, trees, neighbors. All the living things in your ecosystem. Now we're going to focus on just one population. Think about what that word means. A population is the number of one kind of living thing. So what kind of living thing are you? You're a human. So let's think about all the humans that we wrote in our list of living things. You're a human. Your family is a human. These aren't humans, but your neighbors are humans. So the population, you, your family, and your neighbors. Because it's just one kind of living thing. And now, the last one is organism. The organism in this situation is you. Because you are one type of human, just one. An organism is one thing. So now we're going to go backwards. We're going to go outside. So the organism is you. The population, you're a human. So we have to think about all the humans. You, your family, neighbors, your friends, your teachers. Then community, all of the living things in your ecosystem. You, your family, birds, animals, pets, trees, neighbors. We can add way more. And then the ecosystem is all the living and non-living things. Animals, your family, your house, sunlight, birds, soil, clouds, trees, school, cars. So, organism, population, community, ecosystem. Ecosystem, community, population, organism. I hope that made it a little bit more clear. Now get ready for your activity. Okay, third grade, for your activity today, you are going to draw your ecosystem. You are going to draw, let's think about what that means. An ecosystem is all living and non-living things in a place. So think about where you live. Think about your neighborhood. Think about all the living and non-living things. So here's my example. Do you notice how I used lots of examples in here? And I labeled it. You, as a third grader, will also color it. So I have clouds, sunlight, houses, birds, parks, flowers, pets, driveways, sidewalks, bushes, and people. I included living things and non-living things. I included many examples, and so should you. This is my ecosystem. You can even title it My Ecosystem. You need to take up a full white page. You need to include many examples. You need to label all of your examples so your teacher knows what it is. And you also need to color. Now keep in mind this isn't a map of your ecosystem. Like my house is not the only house that I can see, but I only drew my house to show you guys that there are houses in my ecosystem. Does that make sense? Okay, so your assignment is to go draw your ecosystem with all the living and non-living things. This should take you a good long while, okay? This isn't a 5-minute done thing. Should take at least like 15 minutes, if not way more, okay? All right, good job, third grade.